حالتون چطوری؟
Oh, خوبم مرسی خوبم. Where are you originally from? Like your family? I know I've seen in your stand-ups that you're second generation or first? I don't know.
First generation. I was born here. My mom is from Pakistan. My dad is from India. But
Oh,
we
oh,
grew up.
cool.
I'm culturally Muslim. I don't practice myself,
Uh,
but grew up Shia. So
oh,
uh,
cool.
definitely some affinity with the Iranian people.
Cool, cool. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, definitely.
and you can kind of see that in the kind of uprisings that are happening all over, um, Iraq and Bahrain and Pakistan, um, because of the death of Khomeini. I'm trying to look up
Yeah.
where is the city that you mentioned?
Mashhad is in northeast. Yeah, like it's the second biggest city in Iran. Northeast
Gotcha.
part, close to Afghanistan border. Yeah.
I see.
It's a religious city as well. Like there's, one of the imams, harams is there, like the Imam Reza Holy Shrine is
Yeah.
there. So
Gotcha.
it's a big city, with the religious tourism and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, what you said. So let me just ask you, have you already started, or you want to do like a formal thing, or it's just a very, because I don't exactly know what are we gonna do here.
Sure. I mean, we're just talking, and then I basically my game plan is like if there's like something to clip up in terms of like the conversation that
Oh,
like
okay.
improves dialogue. That was the
Uh-huh.
game plan.
Okay.
But I can also do a quick introduction. I wish I knew more about your past. I know you're a
Yeah.
doctor, and I know you are a comedian as well. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, just tell me a little bit about you, Sam.
Sure, sure. Yeah, just um a little quick introduction. As I said, I moved to the US 10 years ago. I did my medical school back home. I came here, started I did my residency, and I've been like working as an attending physician for like 7 years now. And I always wanted to do stand-up comedy, so I started like 3 years ago, going to different clubs and stuff like that. I always had like a social media appearance, I had like some
Sure.
influence and stuff like that. But I kind of switched to more doing like live stuff, live stand-up. And with all the recent events that's happening, social media, and especially Instagram, is one of the outlets that a lot of Iranians use, and Iranian diaspora specifically use to
Yeah.
connect with people inside and to reflect and to help, especially with
Yeah.
like everything that's happening.
Sure.
And what you mentioned, like, it's just I mean, it's mind blowing what's happening like in this past whatever 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah.
Because as you might have seen and heard, majority of Iranians inside and outside the country are super happy from the death of Khamenei and his men. Because,
Where are you
Iranian,
statistic from that majority are happy? Because I've heard
because
the opposite, and have seen kind of when an invader attacks your country, usually the country becomes rallies around their leader. Um, Similar to like most people disliked George Bush, and then when 9/11 happened,
mm,
the approval ratings of George Bush immediately went up to like 80-90% because you
mhm,
have this external force attacking your country. And so
mhm.
I understand that the diaspora tends to be pro-monarchist, but I find it hard to believe, and I feel like it's a kind of propaganda that everyone in the country is anti Khomeini.
Oh, it's not. And my statistics are from actual field, like from knowing people inside the country, like, and many of like, like personally, my friends, my families, and whoever is around me, I can speak for them. And also in social media, like I have like 100,000 followers, 90% of them are from inside the country. And
Sure.
people, it's actually, if you heard in any media outlet, and I'm telling this with complete certainty and complete truth, if you heard in any media outlet that the people in Iran, because of this invasion or because of the death of Khamenei, are sad, that is propaganda. Like this is not the narrative of diaspora. This is what I'm seeing from inside the country because,
But what about the
all my
outpouring
family's
of
back
people
home.
mourning? But what about the
Huh?
people that are outpouring? There's like an outpouring of mourning and like procession that's happening because of
Oh,
his
that
death.
is that comparing to the people who hates this government and who hate this regime, that is nothing. That is like maybe a 5% of people. And this is not, again, these are not like formal statistics. These are coming from my actual experience living there for like about 30 years. And my whole family and friends are back there, so I'm constantly in contact with them. This is not some this might seem strange and new to people of the world, especially because all these years what they saw from Iran was what was broadcasted by Iran's media, like all those like rallies that you see that chant death to America. Those are, everything is organized by the government, and all
Sure.
of those are funded, and all of those are basically backed by the government. But
Right.
what you don't see is when like millions of protesters, actually in Mashhad there was like millions of people. I've seen the clips that my friends took with their own cell phones and sent
Yeah.
to me. Millions
Sure.
of people on the street chanting death to Khamenei. And all this time, like everyone were like, oh, why doesn't Trump attack? Why doesn't Trump attack? People were waiting for this. It's not
Yeah.
that they're like, oh, there's an invasion. Let's get united against it. No, people are, and again, this is not, I'm I don't like to be like, again, I'm not a like political activist or anything like that. This is just the narrative coming out of the actual people that I'm sharing here, you know? It's
Yeah.
because, you know, Iran being Iran, and with the Islamic regime and everything being like very oppressive and censoring like all the media and just letting certain media outlets go inside the country and broadcast, because no journalist is basically allowed to say whatever is happening freely. Like
Yeah.
only from the from the international news outlets, only CNN is allowed to go inside Iran and like broadcast, CNN and sometimes BBC. And
Sure.
those are news that are approved by the government. Like you cannot
Yeah.
just go there and like film on the street and say, these are happening and stuff. And that's the reason so they kind of control the media that
They have
way.
to control the media for sure, and that
Mhm.
totally makes sense. Well, so I guess both sides are. I would argue that both sides are playing propaganda. I'm sure it can be quite oppressive to live under a religious regime. Um, but I think it's important to also take into consideration the context of how this religious regime came into power, which is that
Mhm.
Iran was being plundered by the West
Mhm.
for its resources under Mossadegh, and all of its oil was being extracted, and none of the benefits were being provided to the Iranian people. And then when
Mhm.
there was pushback, he was arrested, and then a who was a democratically elected leader, and then a puppet monarch was put into place, right?
Mhm.
So this idea that the West has the best interests of Iran, I think, is foolish. And so then when that puppet was finally overthrown by the Islamic regime, I think I'm just the reaction of the Islamic regime to suppress criticism is in large part because the West will do whatever it can to undermine a democratically elected process in Iran and other countries if it undermines the interests of the West, specifically Israel and the
Mhm,
United States. And
mhm,
so I think that's where the suppression kind of originates from. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, but it feels like to me, um, what is the other option? Is it to just let the West plunder Iran like they've done to Iraq and Libya and
mhm.
literally every other Arabic country?
So there's twofold on what you mentioned. One is that religious government, from my own opinion, religious government anywhere in the world is wrong, because you cannot be both religious and democratic. Like, that's, they don't go hand in hand. Like, if you're ruling by the book, you're ruling by the book. You cannot say I'm democratic, because there's something written in those, in the religions, that if you're putting them as the law of the country, then
Mhm.
you cannot say people are deciding. That's I think that my idea is that any, if it's any religion, if I don't know, if US government becomes like only Christian, I think the country is gonna fall apart, or any other country.
Right.
Same way in Iran, they tried at first, they tried to represent it as a republic, like when they start, when the Islamic Republic um when the Islamic Revolution happened, and they were framing it as a republic, and like people's vote and stuff like that, which was never a true democracy. It was never a true election. Everything was basically ruled by a bunch of mullahs and ayatollahs who were, having their own like ideas and faith based on religion, and they were like doing that kind of thing.
Right.
It was never a true democracy or true election or anything like that. But as far as um, the interest part, the thing that you mentioned, that the West, whether or not the West has interest of Iran in mind, no, you're right. Why should they? Why should any country have any other country's interest in mind?
For sure.
Whatever the US and the West have done in the history was because of their own interest. And even
Yeah.
today, if Trump goes and captures Maduro from Venezuela, if Trump goes and overthrow the Ayatollah's regime in Iran, it's because they want to undermine the power of the East, which is China and Russia, which have
Yeah.
ties with Iran, which are getting oil from Iran, which are getting oil from Venezuela, and they wanna establish what America's power
Well, I mean,
more,
Israeli
and
power. I would argue
or
that
Israeli power. Yeah, that
American
is
American
that.
interest. Yeah. Go ahead.
I have no doubt in that, and that is, and but from the people's standpoint, whatever has happened in the history, Mossadegh, what you mentioned about Mossadegh, the coup d'état that happened, or the
Hmm.
Islam, or the revolution. The revolution 47 years ago was funded and orchestrated by the West, by Jimmy Carter. It's not that bunch of ayatollahs decided to make a revolution and it happened. No, it was funded, it was orchestrated, and it was because the Shah was kind of like not playing by the US's rules. He was like playing by his own rules, and he started to, saying, "Oh no, this is our oil" and stuff like that. I've read a lot of like, um, in the history and in the interviews and stuff that he's done. So that's why they wanted to overthrow him. Now, it has never been for the interest of Iranian people. Now, what's happening in this time, to my opinion, and to, again, a lot of Iranian, majority of Iranians inside and outside the country's opinion, is that interest, which is, let's destroy the Ayatollahs, let's destroy the Islamic regime, and let's have basically another revolution in Iran, is kind of is aligning with Iranian people's interest, for better or for worse. Because right now people are really fed. Like, I lived in that country.
Yeah.
You cannot listen to the music you want. You cannot. you cannot be friends with a girl. You cannot. Um, Girls cannot. The hijab is mandatory. Women don't have any uh, rights in Iran. It's like it's terrible. Like you cannot say what you're thinking in your social media. They will come to your house. Like so many of my friends have been arrested just because of things that they said online, like even like comedic things, like you put like a clip or some. It's like a complete totalitarian regime that just like what you've heard from North Korea, same thing.
Yeah.
Everything is censored, everything should be based on what they think is right and stuff, and people are truly fed up with that. I don't know if there's similarities between, or how much differences are between Iranian community or culture and like other similar like Arab countries. But what I know is what's happening in Iran is that well, a lot of people have been practicing religion. A lot of people are like Muslims, they've been practicing
Yeah.
in their families and stuff like that. But what this regime have done to the religion, to Islam,
Mhm.
is the worst thing that you can do to any religion. Like the worst kind of, um because people, a lot of people that I know for a fact that they used to be Muslims, they used to practice Islam, are now hating the religion because of this regime. Which
Yeah.
again, a lot of people say, oh, these religion is different from these people, but they were introducing themselves as the representatives of God and the prophets on earth. So people are like, okay, so you are the representatives and you are the ones who are putting us in jail and killing us on the streets with live ammunition, and you're the ones oppressing us, so we hate you and we hate your religion. This is a very, very powerful narrative that exists in Iran, regardless of what they're trying to show and everything. This thing that you mentioned about mornings and stuff is all propaganda. I'm telling you, man. I don't know.
I can
Like,
understand being oppressed by that situation, by that sort of religious kind of heavy-handedness.
mhm,
But I also sympathize with the leaders of Iran because they have enemies at the gates. And so when
mhm,
you have enemies at the gates, you have to almost stifle internal dissent or discord because you have
mhm,
these Jewish powers that are hell bent on turning you into the next Iraq, the next Syria, the next Libya. And so when you have, and this is not to say that I don't empathize with the Iranian people who want to have more kind of uh, these freedoms. But it feels like Iran has been under the threat of war or destruction by its neighbor, specifically Israel, and because of Israel, therefore America, which is the global superpower, for the last half century, because they chose to stand up for their own rights and resources and their own rather than it being plundered by BP and the West.
mhm,
Now that being said, I will also say that this to me feels like a war between the Epstein class, the people who want this war in the United States, is not the majority of Americans. The reason this war is being carried out is not to liberate Iran or liberate their women or what have you, although that's what the propaganda that permeates through our country is that, oh, Iran is so oppressed and we have to free them. But that is always the narrative that we are spreading democracy, and therefore we get these like gullible people to buy into it so that we can then turn Tehran into Gaza, which is really what Israel wants. Israel wants nobody to be at a level of power that they are, so that they can expand into their intention, which is greater Israel, which is to absorb parts of Syria, parts of Jordan, parts of Saudi Arabia and Egypt, and turn into an even bigger node of power in the Middle East. In fact, be the only node of power. And after they're done with Iran, they're going to do the same thing with Turkey, which is many of their higher ups have already expressed. So this notion that this war is a good thing for Iran, it is to me history repeats itself, and the last dozen times that this has happened, it has been to eviscerate a country, not to bring democracy. And so when you celebrate the invasion by these devil worshippers, which is what the Epstein class is, I just think that it feels very foolish to think that this is going to bring anything but destruction to the country. So
We um, so war is never a good thing. Invasion is never a good thing, and being bombed is never good. A lot of people, a lot of innocent people are getting killed,
yeah.
and and regardless of that, having another force coming to your country and like doing something is not a good thing normally, right?
Mm.
But the level of, and I'm telling this from the perspective of just a layman living in Iran, you know, not knowing about the world's politics, whatever again, I'm not going to agree or disagree with whatever you mentioned about like
Sure.
Israel politics or whatever they're doing in the region, regardless of all that. It's just, I just want to tell you the honest narrative of someone who's living in Iran, like who's
I understand. Yeah.
I've been living there, and I'm again in close contacts with people who are actually living there.
Yeah.
At this point, the level that they're being oppressed and censored, and their quality of life is poor, and they've been from every aspect, from freedom aspect, from like freedom of speech aspect, from quality of life aspect, from every aspect of life. They're being suffocated by this regime for years and years.
Yeah.
They've gotten
You're
to a
saying like
point
also like
that
an economic, you're saying also like freedom of speech, but also economic.
absolutely, yeah.
Uh,
This recent protests started because of the economic problems, because
Yeah.
because one dollar equals to like 150,000 Iranian tumans, which is like,
Sure.
so you can, like, as my friends, like as a physician, you get paid $2 a day. Like
Yeah. So do
that's the
you,
amount that
and
you
I,
get paid.
what I would
So
argue is that, like, yeah, go ahead, finish your thought.
sorry, yeah, let me finish this. So they got to a point, from all aspects, they got to a point that they're like, and also after all these, because these protests and people getting killed and getting jailed and getting executed is nothing new. It started like 20 years ago. I
Yeah.
remember, like, all the sparks, like every few months, people start protesting on the streets, and the government starts, like, putting people in jail, and then um like their courts, they like show courts, and then they execute people. Like, you put just one word in Twitter and you can get 10 years in prison. That's very routinely done in their judicial system. So after all these things, and now this recent one where they killed tens of thousands of people on the streets,
Yeah.
which, again, not surprisingly, a lot of like liberal media were silent about in the West, because it didn't lie with their narratives of whatever they're working for. But and that's something that we were really hurt by. We were like, okay, so there's now all these like pictures and clips and all this news of people getting killed coming out of the country, and no one seemed to be caring. Like, no one seemed to be like talking about it. Anyways, they got to a point that they're like, at this point, they're like, you know what? By any means, if this is the only uh, last hope that can bring freedom for Iranian people from this Islamic regime, and I'm not even talking about what's going to happen next, because right now a lot of people are backing a transitional government that's brought by Reza Pahlavi, which is the son of the Shah. A lot of people are in that position, because now looks like people are uniting. Like, I myself wasn't a fan of him because I'm not a fan of kingdom. I'm not a fan of monarchy. But right now, when I see everyone is uniting behind him for a transitional government after the Ayatollahs, we are like,
Mm.
okay, they, see,
Ba-
at this
Based
point,
on Reza,
anything at this
yeah,
point,
yeah, go ahead.
anything is basically better than the Ayatollahs. Like
Sure.
we got
Yeah,
into a point that we're like, okay, just free us from these bastards.
yeah.
It's
And
it's been hard, man.
based on Reza Pahlavi's physiognomy, who do you think he works for? Just judging by his nose.
Come on,
Just take a wild guess.
man. I mean, again,
That guy should
I
be hung from his nose. I, th-
I don't.
I I mean, this is like you're literally. Listen. I understand. I sympathize with your
Mm,
situation, but you're like the best analogy I can think of is your family is being attacked from abroad. You have people who are uh, sowing dissent. Democracy doesn't. The reason democracy doesn't work in places like China and Russia and
mhm,
Iran is because they are democracy can be easily infiltrated, and then uh, you have dissenting voices that are actually not for the best interests of the country, but are in fact to tear the country down. And so, I
mhm,
mean, I think Mossad is like has been vocal about spreading sowing discord in Iran and exasperating the protests. I'm not saying that there aren't
mhm,
legitimate protests. I'm not saying that there aren't legitimate economic problems. But one should also ask, why are there economic problems in Iran? I mean, if you look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the economic problems are like one of the base foundations. If you can't feed your family, you're gonna
mhm,
be angry. You're gonna be out in the streets. And I think a lot of the economic problems are because of the sanctions that are placed unjustifiably on Iran, because they quote unquote want to have
mhm,
nuclear weapons. In fact, but Iran is the only one who has signed the nuclear accords voluntarily.
mhm,
Khomeini has actively said that he doesn't want nuclear weapons. And so now we've eliminated Khomeini, and now we might have an even worse hardliner who is down for nuclear weapons. In fact, the only country that has nuclear weapons that isn't part of the nuclear agreement amongst nations is, can you guess who? The,
Israel.
the Peruvians, actually. No, it's Peru.
Okay,
No,
I
it's
didn't
Israel.
know that.
So these economic sanctions are placed on Iran, and then the Islamic regime is being blamed for the poor economy, but in fact, it is the West that is creating such external pressure so that there's internal discord, so that they can overthrow the regime, which you completely fair to criticize the regime, but it's I think the situation is much more complex than the Islamic regime is evil and therefore the only outlet is for these Zionist Jews to destroy our country, in my opinion. Um, but also, I haven't lived there, so I respect your opinion. But I just think that this game is being played by tugging at the heartstrings
Mhm.
of like, oh, we are establishing freedom for Iran, when in fact it's the exact opposite, and what's likely to happen is what has happened to the rest of the Arab countries who have chosen to stand with honor rather than bow to Israel and the West.
Um, I mean, the fact that anything that happens, specifically in the Middle East, is orchestrated and led by the powers in the West is something that is kind of clear. You know, it's for years anything that happens there, and a lot of times, West is benefiting from chaos and war in the Middle East, and that's why there's always war in the Middle East. It's not like people are not crazy, but someone else is benefiting from the war in that part of the world. But and again, whatever whether or not it's the agenda of Israel and US um, to, again, overthrow this regime. And again, I don't know about like the rest of their agenda, or if Reza Pahlavi is part of it, because there hasn't been a lot of big support from the West or Israel from Reza Pahlavi that I can see as well. Like it's not a powerful support that they're having. And again, I don't wanna say if it's he's the right person for this job or not. The only thing that I know for sure is that people were desperate for any help from any country to get rid of this regime. Now,
Yeah,
I know the revolution that happened, well, people were part of it, and West also meant for it to happen, so it happened. I don't know if having an Islamic Republic regime was part of the plan, or something went wrong and then the Ayatollahs took over, because there was like different groups, different political groups that helped with the revolution, but then the Ayatollahs took over. So, but what happened there, looking back, because I was born for like when 40 years ago, right? And the revolution is 47 years old. So I lived most of my life under the Islamic Revolution, and nothing about that regime, nothing about that government was beneficial for people. Now,
yeah,
I know this is seen, people of Iran, I mean, this is seen differently from the countries outside, because they look at the whole geopolitics and the whole like relationships between countries. Israel comes to play. There's like Arab countries. There's like Palestine. There's like all these things and all
yeah,
these games being played, and Iran being like standing up to the U.S. and whatnot. So I understand why people from different parts of the world might have different feelings. Like for the same reason, we are seeing people in Pakistan mourning for Khamenei, while Iranian people are dancing and like celebrating and stuff like that, because they didn't live the life that we did, right? They were having like different relationship and different effects by the
yeah,
Islamic regime than me,
sure.
who lost all his like I lost all my youth to this regime. Like I didn't live as a normal kid because of this regime. So are all the other kids in Iran who can get arrested for, I don't know, for just posting a sticker on Twitter. So, um, so for that reason, from the people's standpoint, they appreciated this help. They're like, okay, you want to come take down this regime, whatever want to happen after that. It's just people have like a lot of analogies. Iranian people like love comedy, and they have a lot of like comic analogies and stuff like that. If you go on social media, they were like, because a lot of people were like, oh, but we're concerned. What's gonna happen after? They're like, when you're treating cancer, when you're removing like a tumor, you don't worry about what's gonna happen after that. Like
Yeah,
what are you gonna put after that? It's just whatever happens at this point is gonna be better than these people. But at the
sure.
same time, I agree with you. Like realistically looking, it's not that, oh, this is gonna make the country heaven for people, and now we're gonna have like a great democracy like Switzerland, and yeah, a lot of fuckery is gonna happen after this probably. Like,
Yeah,
the fact that it's aligned with Israel's interests, with US's interests, or with like I don't know, Jewish opinions and stuff like that. I'm not gonna deny those. I'm not gonna deny those. Um, but
I
honestly, uh,
I mean I can't imagine what it would be like to live under such oppression. So I
yeah,
totally feel
yeah.
what you're saying.
Due to
Uh,
that, people are like right now not caring about any other part of it. They're like, yeah, whatever, it's Israel, whatever.
uh, yeah, I don't know. I
So
don't know what the answer is. It's a very difficult situation. You know, how do you How do you have the right to self-determination, but also remove interference from these powers that want to subvert you?
Yeah,
And I
because
don't.
at the end of the day, sorry to interrupt you. At the end of the
No, no.
day, this is a like the whole world's politics is a game that should be played by its rules. And I know a lot of countries, they're like, oh, no, but Islamic regime was the only country in the Middle East that was standing to the United States, that was standing against them. And we were like, see, Iran has the same amount of resources, if not more, than like countries like Saudi Arabia, like United Arab Emirates. But
Yeah.
why our people are living poor and under under severe oppression, and people of Saudi Arabia are living at least with a good quality of life. I'm not saying they don't have like oppression from their whatever regime, at
Yeah.
least they're like, because they're playing the game of world politics. They're like, okay, so it's not a, they're not like view us as puppets, like, you know, whatever. They have their own political agendas, but they don't walk on the street and say death to America.
I would argue that they're fully puppets of the West, which is why they're allowed to have a little bit of a golden leash. Um, I mean, I think,
So
I
listen,
yeah,
yeah,
for sure. Listen,
America,
yeah. I mean, I think
they're
what Tehran did, or what
mm,
Iran chose to do, is the game, or the path that China, North Korea, and Russia have taken on, which is uh, a right to self-determination. But that the cost of that is to stamp down any dissent within, because
mm,
you can't have both. If you want the right to
mm,
self-determination, and you try to do democracy, the ones from the external world, the West, will come in and sow discord and destroy any right to self-determination unless they get a cut of yours. And
mm,
so, whether it's for good or for worse, I mean, I think like we see the same sort of oppression when it comes to freedom of speech in places like China. Now,
mm,
China also has stifles freedom of speech completely, but China
mm,
is thriving economically, and so one could argue if if there weren't sanctions that were imposed on Iran, it could be in a similar situation with China, which is being incredibly industrious, which I think Iran has proved
mm,
itself to be, incredibly talented in terms of its human capital, and but also has limited freedom of speech. Is that the best outcome? I don't know. I don't know. Are the Chinese happy? Maybe. I don't. It's just a game of you know uh, yeah, I don't know what the answers are. I just know that
mm,
uh from the outside, I've
mm,
lived in the West. I've had this freedom to say whatever I want, unless it's the criticism of
mm,
one particular segment of the population that seems to have all the
mm,
control, in which case you will
mm,
get shadow banned and your bank will be confiscated. But other than that, I have all those freedoms. So, but then I don't know what those freedoms necessarily mean anymore, you know? What
mm,
is the right to self-determination? Like, I mean, uh, look at America. Is America in a better state than China right now? China doesn't have freedom of speech, but it's industrious. It's leading into the future. It thinks ahead of like what it means to be a civilization. And America is a carcass that every vulture
mm,
eats off of. And so I don't know.
You're right. I mean, in the big, well, who knows what's gonna happen, and who knows what's better or what's worse in the grand scheme of things. Like a lot of things can happen, in the world with all these politics and everything. But what it comes down to, like those freedoms that you mentioned, regardless of even like quality of life or living poor or rich or whatnot,
Yeah.
that that um that freedom and that that calm that you can get under a living situation. That, for example, let me like tell you some of my experiences from back home. Like here, whenever I see the police, I feel safe, even though I'm an immigrant, even though I'm not American. But I see the police, I feel safe. I'm like, oh, police is here, good.
Yeah.
In Iran, it was always the opposite. Whenever we saw any police or any IRGC forces, we were all afraid. We were like, "Oh my God, now they're gonna come do something to us. They're gonna," because the whole system was corrupt.
Yeah.
That, or it was like very routinely done that people like higher ups who were in the managerial positions, because they were kind of like practicing religion like more like hardly and heavily, or they were pretending that, like this, like a lot of people who are just like going up by pretending to be like, I'm a better Muslim and stuff like that.
Yeah.
uh, they routinely were, I don't know what's the word, but they were like stealing money from um, from whatever organization they were living at. Like this was just a routine thing, like the whole corruption that was happening, that people
100%.
were like, okay, so this is our money you're taking away. Or
Yeah.
um again, I didn't want to go there, but like the little things that happen in the people's lives. And my generation and my parents were basically the generation who lived under the monarchy of the Shah, and then they lived under Islamic Republic, and they're like, you know what? I prefer that one. I want that one
Really.
back. I don't,
Yeah.
yeah, they're like, I don't care if it's a Shah coming in. That's now the narrative of most of the people I know, at least. It's just like they're like, you know what? We live like my parents were the ones who were involved in the revolution. But now,
Yeah.
but it's been years. They're saying we we want the Shah back. Of course we want the
Yeah.
Shah back. We were in this miserable. So people are living miserably, and they're comparing that. They're like, yeah, whatever. Shah was US's puppet, whatever. We had a good life. We had a good life. Our passport was so credible in the world that we could, travel to any country. Our
Yeah.
currency had value. We had dignity in the world. Since these mullahs, we don't have dignity, we don't have quality of life. We're just seen as some people that go on the street and say death to America, death to half of the world. They're chanting like death to the US, death to the Israel, death to this to that. It's just like, and people, real people are not that. Real people are, normal people are educated. They're like they want to be friendly, and a lot of people are like, that's why a lot of, like, from my generation, the elite people who could, most of them just fled the country. They were
Yeah.
like, you know what? And when you flee a country, you gotta, if you're living like here back in your country, you gotta go to another country and start from here. So a
Yeah.
lot of people with like degrees and stuff would come out, go to any country they could. Basically, this past few years was like, when I talked to so many of, like, medical school graduates. My brother's one of them, who graduated like few years ago from medical school. They're like, you know what? We just want to go anywhere. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, is Australia, Canada, US, UK, like any country. They're like Denmark, any country in the Europe, anywhere that we can go and have a normal life. And
Yeah.
that normal is not about money, or is not about the quality of life financially, because when you immigrate, financially, you take a great big hit. Like, you got to lose a
Yeah.
lot of money to gain your status and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just having a normal life. Like, I open my phone and I can open Instagram without being filtered, like without
Mm.
filtering.
Yeah.
Being able to use Facebook, or something like that. Being able to watch Netflix, like these little things, which
Yeah.
people are deprived from severely. Like, um, when I talk to my fellow comics here who, you know, might not know like what's going on when I tell them I'm from Iran, and I tell them about this like heavy censorship that I had there, like was normal routine of our lives. They're very surprised that you can even live under that condition. And
Yeah.
these are the reasons that um people are wanting different lives. Now again, no one can guarantee or no one can know that what comes after this, or what is it going to be better for mm, people or for the world and whatnot. But at this point, just to make you like a very simple example, I couldn't go back home because I had an arrest warrant only
Mhm.
because of things that I say online. That's it. I didn't I didn't organize any attacks. I didn't do anything. Just me with my phone, just talking. Where
Yeah.
I was a threat to the Islamic regime. And if I go back home, like they will put me in jail, like maybe give me like 20 years of imprisonment.
Yeah.
So, and there are millions like me who,
Yeah.
well, they might not all have like arrest warrants, but they're like they're not even, whenever like my friends go back home, they're like they delete their apps because they're gonna be searched in the airport. They're gonna be searched and they might go get like investigated and stuff like that. Oh, you
Yeah.
said this, you said that, like this heavy sort of censorship and stuff. Anyways, I don't know. I hope it gets better, man. World is a
I
crazy
hope so.
place right
I
now.
I really empathize with what you're saying. I know. I think freedom of speech is one of the most important, beautiful things in the world. I also think that the first thing that gets stifled is freedom of speech in every country. So I don't know what the answer is. I wish the best for Iran. And we'll see what happens. It
Yeah.
doesn't seem it seems like they have a, I'm incredibly impressed with their military. Um, it's a real David and Goliath story right now to fight back the way they're
Mhm.
fighting back. So I appreciate your story. I wish
Mhm.
infinite happiness for the Iranian people. I also am rooting for Iran in this way.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much, man. It was nice, nice meeting you and nice talking to you.
Nice to meet you.
I wasn't sure what kind of talk we're gonna have. I was like, is it gonna be like? Because I see a lot of comics do like podcasts and talk about things like in a comedic way. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if it's gonna be something like that or like some more like
Oh,
serious talk and
I'm
stuff.
rarely funny. Yeah, yeah, I'm very rarely funny. And
No, I've seen your stand-ups, man. You're funny, dude. No, you're
thank you,
funny. Yeah.
brother.
Where are you based, by the way? You're in DC
I live in
area?
Austin, Texas right now,
Oh,
but I
Austin,
move
Texas. Yeah,
around a
you
lot.
told me. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna
Mhm.
tell you, I'm gonna be. You're in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Where are you at Drexler? Where do you work?
No, I work at the mainline health.
Okay, gotcha,
It's
gotcha.
yeah,
Yeah,
one of
I
the
used to go to medical school, so I applied to all these medical schools in
Oh,
Philadelphia. Yeah, but
so you did go
what
to
was it?
medical school?
I went to medical school and then I dropped out 2 months after I started. I hated it. So,
Okay,
and then I went into
good.
software. Yeah, 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 good. Now, if anything, medical school is like the Islamic regime. If we could bomb every
Right.
medical school, I would be totally happy. I hated medical, but
I agree with you on that, man. I agree with you. But
uh,
you made the right decision at the right time, man. Like
yeah,
you didn't wait like until you were full attending and then you're like, okay, now let's become a comedian after like
exactly.
wasting 20 years of your life
Right,
in
right,
medical
right.
school.
I was gonna tell you, I'm gonna be prefer. I do a show called Brown Noise, which is like
Hmm.
Arab and South Asian comedians, Persian comedians.
Cool.
It usually has a great turnout, and I'm doing one in Philadelphia late May. I would love for you to be on the show
Oh,
if you're gonna be around.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. I would love that. I would love that. Yeah, keep me posted. And I'm right now. I'm basically increasing my reach in Philadelphia and New York area, New York and DC,
Sweet.
these three cities, and hopefully, yeah, I would love to be at your show. And if you just let me know when you come,
Yeah,
so we can hang out and we can like do other shows and stuff if you're interested.
100%. We'll split a pomegranate. or whatever
It wa-
Iranians do.
yeah. It was very
Uh,
nice knowing you and nice meeting you, man. I
Very nice to
really,
meet you.
again,
Hopefully
I
this.
all the again political differences in political ideas and everything aside, I always enjoy, especially talking to um, talking to people who are number one educated about a lot of these matters, which seem like
Yeah,
you are, and also have opinions and voice their opinions, whatever it is, whether or not I agree with them or not. Especially comics who have like political opinions and political agendas, and like voice their
yeah,
concerns and stuff about their political concerns and whatnot. People and whatever is happening in the world. I have a big respect for that, and the fact that you're spending time on this and try to raise awareness to what you're standing for is very respectful, and I enjoyed talking to you, and hopefully we'll talk more later.
likewise. Thank you so much, Assam. I really
Thank
appreciate you taking
you. No, absolutely. Have a good one. Thank you.
you
Bye-bye.
too. Office.
Bye. Hadafis. How do you disconnect this? There's no
That's what I'm let's see. Session.